Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales is now streaming live on Fun Media at fun927.com and is always on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, and at tv5wrestling.com.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
Never fear. Talking Memphis Wrestling is here. Yellow again, everybody. Broadcasting as live can be from our home studios in my hometown, Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's Randy Hales. It's a huge Talking Memphis Wrestling as we are getting back to our roots today, and I'm so excited today. Our lead subject is the Mount Rushmore of wrestling announcers. I'm so excited about that. I am fired up as I can be fired up. Also, we have a great special guest for the second time in Talking Memphis Wrestling. I'll bring him in a little bit. The great wrestling historian, Tony Richards, who does Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel, and you got to check it out. Certainly, folks, this will be a can't miss Talking Memphis Wrestling. If I can, I want to break routine and I want to do a couple announcements related to me from a personal standpoint, from a family standpoint. I want to ask for prayers for my great nephew, Cal Richardson. Cal, a 21-year-old great young man, and he is on a mission trip. Cal left Saturday. He is in Brazil. Cal is in Brazil, bringing the message of the Lord to Brazil. He's just such a good kid. I'm so proud of him. Cal, good luck to him. He's in Brazil and will be for a minute. Again, I am so happy about that. Now, I talked about my great nephew. I want to talk about one of my great nephews, and I want to talk about Anthony Avilas. And Anthony had issues, I believe today. I know today it happened. He had his tonsils taken out. Man, a 7-year-old, I think I'm right on that. He had his tonsils out. He is doing good as well. So, folks, asking for a little prayers. I appreciate every single one of you for sure. Now, Adam, let me see the backstage area so I can see who we have in the backstage area. I think I can click for that as well. And we will go to, this is unusual to do, I usually say Birmingham, Alabama. It's first date time from the OG, the original guy, when it was just two of us. He found us, and thank God for me and my survival that I did find him, or he found me, I think is exactly how that happened. I love me some Pat Trammell. His first take from Knoxville, Tennessee, the home of Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Hello, Patrick.
Well, hello to everybody. I just checked in room 501 off Strawberry Plains Road, I think it is, here in Knoxville, and hadn't had a lot of thoughts about the good first take, but I did, as I told you earlier, Randy, listen to a really good Jim Cornette session that I think we're going to talk a little bit about today, and have spent some time thinking about our our question today about uh, play-by-play wrestling guy. So just excited here to see everybody. Richard, good to see you. Calvin, Frank, everybody else, great to see you all.
All right, Pat, you're in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I think I will say that. Speaking of East Tennessee, Bo James coming up this weekend on Friday night will have his premier live event in Alabama. That's Friday night. And guys, we'll have Adam pop that up there if he could real quick. And here we go. It is called Hoops and Headlocks. Great, great, great graphic there. And I think maybe the next to last graphic is another graphic from that event. If we could go ahead and put that up there too. And this, of course, the lovely Mrs. Bow is front and center. That is where she lives. That's where she works. And it's Friday, June the 12th. This coming Friday, Bo ordered a ring from Mike Samples. It was delivered in Alabama today, and he is ready to go. And man, wrestling like it used to be, wrestling, Pat, coming to your home area, Alabama. How excited are you about that?
I'm very excited. I'm going to try to get up there. Rogersville, Alabama is a long-time spot show town in North Alabama, and it's been worked from the Goulas Welch days up through today. So I know Bo and Judy Lee are excited to bring their brand of Southern States Wrestling to Rogersville, and it should be a great event.
All right, very good. Thank you for your first take, and good luck in Knoxville, Tennessee. I want to, as we're going to bring in the guy from Arab, Alabama right now, and I want to explain and get Michael on the screen right now. Tony Richards is our special guest today as we talk the Mount Rushmore. Again, before we get to Tony, Michael and I had a State of a Union conversation today on the telephone. Now, this show not only means everything to me, it means a lot to Michael St. John, to Pat Trammell, and the great thing to our audience. Now, our main goal is to please the audience. And we certainly, and today as an example, we are going to our roots. We probably won't have any video at all. This show started talking Memphis wrestling before we could do video. Now we normally have more video than talk, and I miss those days. But here's the thing that I wanted to ask our audience, and I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to be a prick in saying this. And Michael, I'll let you follow up, then do your first take. But this is what I decided. There's a lot of moving parts in this show. I take this show very serious, just as serious as I did when I was laying out and booking USWA and booking and laying out and writing Power Pro Wrestling. I spend hours and hours and hours on graphics, on video, on writing out a format, making it have sense. And it's important for us to have a flow. Now, we appreciate the feedback and the enthusiasm from the audience, man. And I'm not trying to run you off in any way. I just say this. When somebody comes in and we have a subject and we're talking a point and somebody asks a question or has a comment from left field from nothing to do with what we're talking about, either I don't go to it and then forget about it, or it throws me off and it throws everybody off. I'll let Michael talk about that. But what I'm going to do, a special show Thursday, I will do more Randy Hales shows, and I will do those Randy Hales shows this Thursday at 7 o'clock, strictly Ask RH Anything, and you guys can come in. I'll have a link. You can come on the air, and we can talk all you can talk. But for this case, if you can just reply to questions to the guests or something relating to what we're talking about. Michael, introduce your special guest, big brother to a baby sister. How about that, Joshua? How about that little sister, buddy?
Tell him what your sister's name is.
Alexis.
Alexis. Do you play with her?
Do you play with her? Here, I'm going to put these on him.
Do you play with her?
Yeah,
Or is she too little to play with?
Too little.
You're not too little to play. I'm gonna come to Arab. Will you play with me? Will you play with Randy?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
All right. That is great. Well, thank you, Joshua, for popping in. Tickles me to death, fires me up. Good to have you here on Talking Memphis Wrestling.
Just real quick before you leave, number one, he's a great big brother already. He's helping out. Just love it. Number two is signed up for football. And he's going to play the real thing, tackle football, got his helmet, got his shoulder pads, getting him all dressed up, got him a good chin strap. Go play. You know what? He went to get my iPad. Hey, guys.
All right.
First of all, Pat, I got to ask Pat before we go on, if you don't mind. So did you ever make it to Manny's, or did the prices scare you off?
I never made it to Manny's just because I was too busy and too tired. I looked at it and I was going to go over there and get an appetizer, and I thought, nah, that's too much.
You know what's funny, and I told you this in the text when we talked. I've never paid for a meal at Manny's. The record companies always did, you know. So I know that's a good. I just know it's a good place to eat. But me paying that kind of price, not in this.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive there, price wise.
It's one of the top 5 steakhouses in America, Randy, and the steaks are incredible. But I got a steakhouse right here. And Pat, I'm trying to get Pat to come up and visit. And I want you to come down and visit, Randy. There's a place here called Sierra's. It's actually a Mexican restaurant owned by a guy out of Atlanta that used to run Bones over in Atlanta, which is a great steakhouse. And he owns this place here, and his steaks are to die for. I just had our consulting engineer in last Thursday and took him over, and I said, order a steak. He ordered the steak. He finished the steak in like 5 minutes. He finished the steak before my wife ordered. And he said the only steak place he's ever eaten at that was better is a place called the Golden Steer downtown Las Vegas. And he said, and he was the engineer out at Area 51 for a while and for 3 years, and really smart guy. And he said, that steak's amazing. And I tried to make him order a second, but he said he'd wait until next time. But anyway, first take is life is good. We're into June. We're 73 days from the start of high school football. And I'll tell you, it has been rainy around here. In fact, we started to build an ark. And we decided to give up because it got all of a sudden, it went from 73-degree days to 93-degree days with 90% humidity. So it has been sultry out there today, but it has been really, really wet. Lots of floods, a lot of inundation of water still around. The ground is saturated. We got more water coming, more rain coming tonight and tomorrow. But then after that, it looks like we're going to dry up for about 5 days.
Michael, before we get to our great guest, the great historian, tickled about that, just take a minute or two to expand on what I was talking about, how we're switching gears, going back to our roots, and I'm creating a show for Thursday because the flow of the show is important for us, and I think that our audience will enjoy that if we can stay focus. And certainly we talked about that earlier today, and I think it's the right direction to go in. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I want to say 2 things. Number one, to our audience, and we have a lot of loyal viewers and listeners that have been here since the day one I started. And I know they've been around here since you've been around, Randy. And they're great folks, and they're always on point. I mean, PJ and some of the other people that are always on point, and they're always into what we're talking about. And what happens a lot on talk shows or in shows like this is you have people that come in and out. They listen for a little while, they watch for a little while, and then they have to go do something else. And that's fine. That's how the world runs. But a lot of times they got something on their mind and they'll throw it on the screen and it's completely off subject and it's not even close to what we're talking about. We appreciate that input, but if we don't answer right away, don't get mad at us. but we have a format. We have a schedule of things that's going on. I think there's 9 pages tonight from everything I printed off that Randy did. And we try to get as much in as we can. But when we get sidetracked or we get thrown off, and it's normally by what I call a wild side comment, it just upsets the tempo of the show. And I sort of feel, and Randy we talked about this earlier and then talked about it in depth today, that the flow of the show has been doing this for the last few months. It's really sort of taken off. I know our viewership is up. I know our folks that are participating, the number of participants we have that do have questions or do make comments is up. And we appreciate the people that when we're talking about something, like tonight, we're talking about the Mount Rushmore of announcers. If you want to throw things in there, you got somebody you want to throw in that's going to maybe jog our mind, or, hey, I hadn't thought about that person. Well and good. Love it. You're welcome to do it 100,000%. It's the questions that come in that say, hey, what do you think about the Samoan wrestler that came to Missouri in 1973 that died in the ring? We're not talking about that. No offense. But, maybe further down the line, if other show, we may address something like that. But that's sort of where we're coming from. And Randy, and I'm going to throw kudos, and Pat, I know you and I have had this conversation. Randy books this show like he books a wrestling show.
That's absolutely right.
And nobody is better. And I've said this from the time I came on this program. If Tony Khan had one great idea of wrestling sense about booking, it would be to hire the man that's on the screen with us right now to book for him, because his booking is based on the history of wrestling, is based on what he knows gets people involved emotionally and gets ears and eyes to the television set. And right now, Tony is, bouncing left and right. And I'll tell you, the guy that could level the playing field and shoot him down the freeway to success is Randy Hales. And I'm not saying that because I'm on the Randy Hales show. I'm saying that because I've known Randy Hales since 1980, whatever it was. And there is nobody better. There's nobody better walking the face of the earth right now on booking wrestling or even booking this show than Randy Hales. So guys and ladies, thank you. We love you, but let's stay on the flow. Let's keep the train moving down the track. We don't want any train wrecks.
17 minutes. We are in Knoxville, Tennessee with Pat Trammell. We are in Arab, Alabama with the great Memphis Wrestling Hall of Famer Michael St. John. But right now, what I want to do is go to the bluegrass state of Kentucky. I'm a little mad at this guy because I'm a busy guy. Stay busy, making money, making enemies, all the things I do. But I spend hours and hours and hours. So my next guest has a podcast, and it's Tony Richards Pro Wrestling. I'm getting crazy. Go ahead, if you have a graphic for Tony, go ahead and put that up. The Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel, that is great. There's a series on 85, multiple episodes. He did Mid-South 85. He did the Carolinas 85, Continental 85, Mid-South Wrestling 85. He did Memphis 85. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours, and man, I learned a lot. I was entertained. I cussed. I fussed. I laughed. I clapped. It's the emotion of a show. And he has a great show. Now, I wanted the show because Tony had a special show with our friend Michael St. John. But I don't know why. I could not convert it from YouTube to, it wouldn't work, to this restream. Couldn't do it. But I know, well, if I can't do it, I know who can. Adam Dunn couldn't figure it out. So we can't show that. But folks, go to YouTube, go to Tony Richard Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel, and look for that interview with Michael St. John. Now, with 19 minutes of talk, we are building for our feature. We are building for the return. we are building to bring in from Kentucky, from his Richards Ranch. My man, welcome to the show, future Jim Melby Hall of Fame for this year coming up in the Tragus Hall of Fame. His second appearance here. Sorry for the wait. Hope you like the intro. Bringing in here, by God, Tony freaking Richards. Hey, Tony.
All right, man. Thank you so much, Randy. It's so good to be back here on one of my favorite shows. And I got so much feedback today. I put it out on my X feed, a Twitter feed that I was going to be on tonight. I got a lot of feedback. And I'm so happy to be here with some of my best friends in the whole world, especially in the wrestling business.
Well, that's great. How's Mama Richards doing?
Well, she's doing all right. We just had another, and I know you had this recently too. We just had another recent family member pass away, and it was one of my dad's sister's husbands, and they'd been married 68 years. And anytime that happens, well, Mom goes into a little bit of a spiral. But she's doing good. She's recovered well. I saw her today. She's doing great. Thanks for asking.
Now, I want to ask you a question. If you say no comment, I'll understand.
Sure.
It's usually if I ask a woman this, I'd get hit. I don't think I will with you. I'm trying to compare me and you. How old are you, Tony?
I'm 63.
I am 64. So we are real similar, and I think I've read between the lines. And you either are or a big part of care for your mother, caregiving for your mother.
Yeah.
I brought my mother to where I was living, running the Sonics, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. She developed dementia, ended up with broken hips and all the thing for the last 3 years of her life. And it's almost a gift from God that I could have that blessing to do that. She took care of me when I was a baby. At the end of her life, I took care of her, and there's nothing. And when it's all over, Tony, you're thinking this is going to be the worst day of my life. Of everybody in your family, you will handle it better than anybody. Somebody that's been there, they thought I was going to shoot myself, my family. They thought I was going to shoot myself. I did better than anybody. You know the difference and why you will be the same way? The difference is you had no regrets. I had no regrets. Folks, take care of your parents. And we share that in common. And you have mama boys to galore on this show. But I wanted to point that out, and I respect you for knowing. And I did it with my surrogate father, Eddie Marlin, a father figure to me. Last year of his life, I moved in with him and took care of him. It is it's just an amazing thing to do, and we get as much out of it than the person we're helping. We really do. Hello, everybody. Appreciate the thing. I just wanted to put you over for that.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I moved back here about a year ago. My dad passed away 3 years ago. They had been married 61 years. And so I just got to thinking about it, and this little ranch on the side property next to my mom and dad's ranch came available. And this old house that I bought here, I remodeled it and moved down here, and it's a great decision. I'm glad that I did it. And you're right. It's one of those that I know I will have no regrets because I did it.
Very good. One thing I want to do, because people are joining, and I want to do a family thing again. Go ahead, because I will asking again. More people are watching now. Once again, I want to ask for prayers for my great nephew, Cal. He's on a mission trip to Brazil. Cal Richardson, he's 21 years old. He was born on my 44th birthday, and me and him are tight. Cal, working for the Lord in Brazil on a mission trip, and certainly everybody pray for Cal in Brazil, and I'm so proud of him. Also, my great-great-nephew in Cabot, Arkansas, his name is Anthony Avilas. Don't have a picture of him, but certainly Anthony had some work done today, and his tonsils taken out. So prayers to both of those guys. Now, before we get into the great subject that we'll debate and we'll have a good time, and if it takes today's episode, or next Tuesday's episode, we're going to take plenty of time and not rush. And I appreciate all the comments from everybody and all the prayers. Now, I want to throw it back to Michael St. John. Absolutely throw it to Michael St. John, because I happened to be on Facebook the other day, and I happened to see a graphic, and I saw a article in that graphic, and it's next to last column, first picture, 5753 is the graphic for this. And here's Michael St. John, because Jim Cornette explains pro wrestling. This is one of the best pieces of business I've ever seen in my life. And Cornette is so brilliant. You put over me, Cornette is great. Absolutely. And here's Michael St. John.
Well, I can't speak for Jim Cornette, but I can tell you one thing. You get Tony Richards and Jim Cornette and Bo in a room, and you've got all the wrestling history you could ever have in your life. They are amazing at what they do. And Jimmy is just, I love to listen to him. I get to listen to his podcast when I go to my Tennessee station. And I was telling Tony this the other night. It's 3 hours there and it's 3 hours back, so I can listen to the drive-through going up and the experience coming back, or vice versa. And it really works out. But Jimmy is a fabulous guy, and he explained professional wrestling in as simple terms as you could ever want. And I've heard him actually do this a couple of times, so this is unique. You drive down the side of the road and you see two guys in a hell of a fight. You want to pull over and see what's going to happen, right? Well, there's a big guy and a little guy, and the big guy is waiting on the little guy, and you're like, boy, this little guy is going to get the crap beat out of him. So you decide that you don't want to get involved and mess with the big guy, and then the little guy comes up and starts firing back, and now the big guy's getting the you-know-what beat out of him. Well, you're yelling, hit him again, hit him again. Now, imagine that you know the little guy, like him, and he's your hero. And the big guy, what a prick. He says horrible things to everybody, and you hope he gets the shit beat out of him. Now, instead of just driving by, you might pay $5 or $10 or whatever to see that fight, because you want to know if the little guy will win for you. That's wrestling.
Fantastic feedback of that great piece of business, Pat Trammell.
I think Michael just said it all. That's kind of Cornette at his very best right there.
Tony, what do you think about that piece of business that we did on Talking Memphis Wrestling? I thought it was brilliant.
Well, absolutely. I mean, most things like wrestling or any kind of entertainment are best when they're as simple as possible. And that's the way to explain things as simple as possible about what causes people to want to see something. And in wrestling or boxing or any kind of combat sport, it's a size difference, a background difference, or any kind of thing like that. Any kind of difference makes people want to see the conflict, and I think that's something you have to have.
As PJ says, Cornette said it best. All right, we are almost 30 minutes into the show, and we'll start our subject of the day. The subject of the day is great wrestling announcers, and our subject of the day is the Mount Rushmore. The first person, and I just need a name, guys, because we'll have plenty of time to talk. We'll start with Pat first. Who's the first person up in the Mount Rushmore of Wrestling Hall of Fame announcers, Pat?
Well, it's easy on this show, Lance.
Lance Russell. All right. Michael St. John.
I would absolutely agree with Pat. So I got to come up with another name. And I'm going to say Gordon Soley, only because Gordon had such an impact nationally in an era of time when wrestling wasn't quite national at that point. And being that he worked Florida, then he worked Atlanta, he did Dothan, he did Southeastern. I mean, to me, Gordon Soley, his style was different. His persona was different, but Gordon Soley, I think, was the face. If you ask outside of Memphis, the Memphis and Nashville territories, if you ask of the announcer person that people most recognize in professional wrestling today, in this day and time, it would be Gordon Soley.
Tony, the very first person on your Mount Rushmore, you're similar to us. You watch Nick Gulas wrestling, but you watch other wrestling. You watch the Papos ICW, and I don't think their announcer will make the list of the Mount Rushmore. But who's the first person that you have on your Mount Rushmore Hall of Fame?
Well, just to qualify, just so I don't get tomatoes and things thrown at me here on the show, I usually try to think about, okay, what are most historians or most fans going to say? And most fans are going to say Lance, or they're going to say Gordon, or they're going to say Bob Caudle. And I typically think to myself, okay, who can I put out there that I genuinely think was great, that I don't think a lot of people saw, so they're probably not going to make their list. So I'm always going to be a Sterling Brewer guy, who was the Birmingham announcer for Gulas Welch. And I said this the other day on the show when Michael was on with me, is that for play-by-play, strictly play-by-play announcing for a wrestling match, I really think Sterling Brewer is the best I've ever heard. Just as far as calling the match itself, not necessarily putting angles over, not necessarily doing interviews, not necessarily doing any of those things that are also skills for a wrestling announcer, but just calling a match. I thought he was fantastic.
You know, that Tony, Randy, don't want to interrupt, but you know, I grew up on Sterling Brewer Saturday night, and Tony, that is great insight, and I wish we had some tape of it, because you're absolutely right. He was a master of calling in the ring.
Do you want to say anything about him, Michael?
I agree, and you know, we talked about this the other night, Tony, is the great thing about Sterling Brewer is he was understated, and never once did you see him try to upsurge or get over on a wrestler. The wrestlers were the show, and all he was the conduit, explaining to people what they were seeing, and I would give a great argument to that, and in favor of Sterling. And I'll bring up another one, and he made my top 4 on the Mount Rushmore list, is a person that I don't think a lot of people around here are aware of, or that listen to the show or watch the show maybe and not be aware of, because of when he was a wrestling announcer and what he did, was Bill Mercer in Dallas. And Bill Mercer,
5750 is Bill Mercer. 5750 is Bill Mercer.
I've got a list of 7, Michael, and he's on it.
Well, and Bill Mercer was the first play-by-play man for the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And he did professional wrestling before that and during that and after that. And Bill Mercer was a sportscaster doing professional wrestling. And any of us, like myself and you guys, we consider wrestling a sport. I don't care what, it's still a sport. It's physical activity. People are in competition. It is a sport. And Bill Mercer did it phenomenally well.
Bill Mercer also, as Adam pointed out in our private chat, and I did hear about this, I was 2 years old, but Bill Mercer actually, and you know all the announcers, Michael, what other announcer besides Bill Mercer would have been put in a situation to cover John F. Kennedy's assassination? Because obviously, he also informed Lee Harvey he was being charged. This is the real deal, Michael.
Absolutely. He was working for CBS Radio. They had an O&O and owned and operated in Dallas, KRLD, 50,000 watts on 1080. Help me out, Tony. 1070, 1080, KRLD, 1070 and KRLD. And he was a reporter and an anchor. And very young in 1963, when Kennedy was assassinated, he was the first network reporter to report it. And of course, one of their booth announcers at CBS in Dallas at KRLD was the national voice that you heard break into CBS networks and make the announcement that President Kennedy had been shot.
Tony, any comments?
Oh, I was just going to say, I like Bill fine. Another person that was down there with Bill before his Mid-South days was Boyd Pierce, who also worked in the Dallas, Houston area. But to double back on Sterling, a lot of people may not know this because this was before TBS was uplinked to satellite. But when Ann Gunkel took all the wrestlers and walked out of the NWA office in Atlanta and started her own company, Ed Capperell, who was the longtime announcer for Atlanta Wrestling, left as well. And the person that they replaced him with was Sterling Brewer. And Sterling was the guy through a lot of Jerry Jarrett's booking in 73 and 74. And then they eventually brought Gordon in. But before they brought Gordon in, Sterling was the announcer there for a while.
Let's go ahead and put that picture up.
From Birmingham, excuse me.
5740, Adam. 5740. Go ahead, Michael.
Sterling was communicating from commuting from Birmingham to Atlanta before I-20 was finished. And so that was not as easy a commute as it is now. And he was very good. And that was in the Channel 17 days before they went on satellite, or right at the first of when they first went on the satellite. Is that not correct on that, Tony?
Yeah, it was when WTCG, and
right.
it didn't go up on satellite till 76.
Let's go ahead and start at the top, and we'll start with picture number 5735. And this is one of my favorite deals. This was certainly a classic deal, and I like the facial expressions here. Pat, what do you think about this picture? Hill Lawler and Lance being Lance.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny right there. I was trying to see what year that was based on Lance's clothes. I do notice the collar aren't as big as they're going to get, but he does have that short collar button up with the buttons on the flaps there. So that's probably 73, 74. You think?
I think so, because that's a leisure suit he's wearing, and leisure
there
suit
you go.
is 75.
There you go.
Michael, your comment on that picture?
Well, I know where Lawler started calling him Banana Nose. I mean, that is, Lance had a very profound nostril cavity, and that's how Lawler began to hit on him with that banana nose thing. But look at the haircut too. I mean, that was I've got over 8,000 pictures. I just had digitized a high school project that was done at ARAP High School, digitized all my parents' photos. And there's some pictures of me from right about that era. And I got a hairstyle that's worse than that, and a leisure suit that's a lot uglier.
Tony, how about your quick thoughts on this classic picture from Channel 13?
Oh my gosh, I love it. And one of the things that made Lance so good and made all of these guys in this era so good that were on television is they didn't start on television. They started on radio, and they learned how to describe matches and sporting events so that people at home could get a vivid picture without pictures. And that translated over into his television play-by-play and color work very well.
That's a great point, Tony. And I want to say, and I'll add to that, when I had the opportunity to do the ESPN show for Jerry Jarrett in Dallas, the producer after the first week came to me and he said, "You're talking too much." And all I was doing was play-by-play, but I was used to doing radio play-by-play, and that's what I've done all my career. He said, "Back off a little bit and let the pictures tell the story." Well, I'd never thought, that is that big of a deal, but that was sort of the trend back then, to getting radio guys and then shutting them up and letting them and then the radio guy on TV went away.
And another thing that a lot of people miss about the Memphis show that I always thought was interesting, and maybe I'm the only one that picked up on it just being a broadcasting guy from years ago, is that so often Lance would shift to the color position and Dave Brown would do the play-by-play in the studio, where Lance would do the play-by-play from the arena show. And it was just and so many guys, there were only just a couple of those teams on wrestling shows. There was usually just one guy, but those guys went back to like 1966 of having two guys on a wrestling show, which was pretty awesome.
I'll give you one little thing that might surprise you, and Michael. Certainly this is a Channel 13 days and even the first of the Channel 5 days, Lance was the host. Lance would do the interviews. Lance would then, once the bell rang and he said, "Tell us about it, Davey," Lance would go back to the dressing room to confer with Jerry Jarrett. And Dave would do most of the play-by-play unless there was going to be an angle involved in the match or the main event. Michael, did you know that?
Absolutely. I was part of that. I mean, when I was doing the show at times, when I was filling in with Dave after his daughter passed away, and I did all those weeks with Lance. Lance would go in, and there might be a change. There might be something that's been added or something that's been dropped or taken away. And Lance would leave the set. And of course, the camera would be on the ring, and go back and get some information, then come back. And then during a break, he would tell me, "Hey, this is going to be changed, and watch out. We got to watch for this," or whatever. Lance was brilliant. So he was sort of a co-producer while he was still being the announcer.
Next picture is 5736. And Pat, we'll start with you. What I think, and this is expanding on our subject, Mount Rushmore. I think, because as Tony so correctly said, a lot of times guys were solo. Lance brought Dave in the 60s. Lance been doing wrestling since the 50s. Toward the mid to late 60s, Dave came on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling teams. This is number one. Certainly Lance, my Mount Rushmore, because again, I'll admit it, I grew up with the guy and was close, again, like Eddie Marlin, a second type of father figure to me. I love Lance Russell, love Dave Brown too. A great team, and I love that picture, Pat.
Yeah, I do too. And if you look at Dave and Lance, they were serious announcers. And if you look at WWE now and some other wrestling shows, they generally have a somebody trying to make it work, and then the sidekick is kind of a yahoo. And Memphis always kept it respectful and athletic, and I think that had a lot to do with the success there.
What a team, Michael.
Indeed. And I love the fact that Tony brought it out. There wasn't a lot of two-person teams in the wrestling profession, and this was without a doubt the if not the first, certainly the best. And outstanding. I love those RE20 microphones that they've got all wrapped up with colored electrical tape to keep them together.
Red,
you can use them as drumsticks too.
Yeah, red and yellow. Tony, this picture.
Yeah, easy way for the producer or the sound, whoever's mixing the sound, to tell whose mic is which too. Knowing that that's the Lance's mic and that's Dave's mic. But I love everything about this picture. It gives me such great feelings.
No doubt about it. Now, I want to lose that picture. And Michael, a year is all I need from you. And I think it would be 89, because when Lance Russell, obviously you did voiceovers, you did special videos, you did the next stuff, all that. As far as Channel 5 and being a regular part initially and then a co-host after Lance had left to go to Atlanta, am I correct in saying that you appeared as a co-host the first time? I would say 88 or 89, but I think it would be 89. Is that correct?
It was 89. It was right. Early 89.
Now, I want to show the next picture, 5735. He is a radio broadcasting god. He is, as we look at 5737, and this is the plaque from the Hall of Fame.
Hey,
Timber.
I'm sorry. I got to interrupt. This guy doesn't hold a candle to the people we're talking about. I appreciate the kudos, but this guy doesn't hold a candle to him.
Michael, besides myself, you got the biggest ego on this show. Don't tell us that stuff. But he
No,
is a great.
listen, I know my place, and my place is not among the top 10 wrestling announcers, I can assure you. You want to put me in the top 40, okay, but not in the top 10.
I think you would have people disagree with that, and that's okay. Michael St. John, Pat Trammell, you're ahead of the fan club.
Well, absolutely. I'm the head of his fan club in an awful lot of ways. And I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I've got some other people I respect on my list here. And of course, I knew if I brought Michael up, what he would get because he's so humble. The thing, Michael, that I really wish it was that you had a 5 or 7 year run, in the glory days of USWA and Memphis wrestling. I mean, I know you were in and out a good bit and did a lot in Texas and all that, but and obviously we're doing some very, very important stuff in a radio career that is also a Hall of Fame career, I might point out. I don't know of anybody else that's in 2 separate Hall of Fames but you, but I would have liked to have seen that. I would have liked to see you be Sterling Brewer after Sterling Brewer left for a long time.
Well, and I appreciate that, Pat. And Nick Goulas, God rest his soul, gave me that shot and gave me that opportunity. Of course, Jerry Lawler gave me the first opportunity to ever do it in 1976 at the Cook Convention Center when Jerry split off with Nick. And then of all the odd things happen in life, I end up being Nick Goulas's announcer during the end of his tenure. And I personally don't think that I could have ever gotten to anywhere close to the heights of Lance and Dave, because Lance and Dave were magic. There was chemistry beyond the microphone. There was chemistry beyond the television lens. They were just perfect for it. And give credit where credit's due. Lance Russell talked Dave Brown when he was a DJ at WHBQ in Memphis doing the Drake format. It's 9:46. And, all of a sudden, Dave is a weatherman and a super wrestling announcer. To this day, I bet Dave Brown could go back behind the microphone on a wrestling show and be as good today as he was with Lance Russell.
Absolutely. And Adam found a fun little graphic before we get to Tony on Michael. And obviously they share a working relationship in radio. That graphic has to be put up that we talked over. If you could put that back on the screen now, Adam, if you could go ahead and put that last graphic with Lance and Michael together. And hopefully, Tony, this is a super, super graphic. I mean, just a fun graphic. Your thoughts?
Well, without putting him over any more than I did on my show the other day, I mean, it's just 2 of my heroes. From the time I found out as a young kid, when I figured out that I wanted to go into broadcasting at some point, as soon as I found out what a program director was, which was the behind the scenes, basically the booker for the station, that's what I wanted to be. And my hero was the guy you're looking at right there, Michael St. John, because I could get very vaguely, just a hint of Kicks 104 in Nashville, Tennessee. And that was the station that I learned so much by just watching and listening and paying attention to. And Michael's a very special guy in my life.
Michael, your thoughts on that graphic?
Good AI.
You are good.
No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that, Tony. And there's much respect for Tony. Listen, Tony managed as a vice president of programming a Midwestern radio group that probably was the most unheralded, best sounding radio group in America during the time he had it with Zimmer Broadcasting. And the Zimmer brothers, I know, appreciated the talent in a Tony Richards. And I had the honor of working with Tony for 3 years. And I mean, and I think, Tony, you just said something, and I never thought of it that way. But a program director is exactly what you just said. It's the booker of the radio station. And that's the thing. You put the talent together, you put the programming together, you put the music together, you put the presentation together, you put the promotions together. I mean, you're the booker. You're doing the format, if you would, 24/7. And I think that's a great compliment to program directors as a whole. I was honored to have Kicks 104, in first radio station outside of a metro area to become #1 in that metro area in a top 50 market in the country. And then when it was sold and Ronnie Bledsoe sold it, I went across the street to Y107 and did the same thing with a Lebanon radio station outside the market, coming into the Nashville market, and we became #1. And I don't necessarily, I'm not taking credit, because the credit is the people that you hired that do the work, that do the handy. All I was the guy shuffling the cards. I was, like you were saying, I was doing the booking sheet. And it's the talent, and I was blessed with great talent and with great understanding of the market with my talent to do it. And the funny thing, the most money I ever had in a budget to spend on promotion and or talent never exceeded $200,000 a year.
And just as
McLeod.
Just as a callback to the way we opened the show about Corny's comment about what makes great pro wrestling, there's so many people who think, oh, you just put songs on the radio, anybody can do that. It's a lot like booking wrestling. Not anybody can do it. You know what I mean? And so it's a very specialized, interesting art form.
I want to go to left field. Can you imagine Memphis television? We're talking strictly Memphis TV. TV boomed under Lance Russell. He had various co-hosts at the beginning. They would leave, and I can't tell you one of their names. He found Dave Brown, and he found Dave Brown. The famous thing he told to Dave when he asked him to do the show, you'll find out two things. You will find out if you like TV, and most important, you'll find out if TV likes you. So from the mid-'60s to late '60s, it was Lance and Dave. And then all of a sudden, when the big split, when Gulas, Welch, when Jerry got his own deal, Dave was committed the first few weeks. Lance was committed. And now we're reversing gears. I don't have pictures. I don't have videos. Maybe Adam can find the picture somewhere. I would doubt it, but he's brilliant, so he might. The Mount Rushmore of bad wrestling announcers, especially in the Memphis market, 1977 for just a few weeks, Clay Conrad and Bob Young. Both good broadcasters. However, they weren't wrestling announcers, and they were following Dave Brown and following a legend, and that did not last, and it wasn't meant to last because Jerry Jarrett knew where he was going. So certainly, Pat, Conrad, and Young, I'm sure, because you didn't get Memphis TV, as there they are. I love Adam Dunn. I would marry him if he was a woman, because he always comes through. At the top of the guy with the microphone standing up is Clay Conrad, and that's Bob Young with the dark hair and the suit. And they, again, great professionals, shitty as wrestling announcers. Clay Conrad, Bob Young, your thoughts, Mr. Trammell?
I never saw him, but I have to admire the hair.
Same hairdresser on Poplar Street.
Yeah. Okay.
Poplar Avenue.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
No, I never saw him. I don't know that I've ever seen anything on him, Randy. I wish we had a clip.
Michael, and Adam's trying to find one, but they might be one or two, but it's a process to do that. For sure. Michael, explain to everybody, because you were kind of, but you knew about wrestling. When Lance went away and they tried Ronnie Gossett, and that was a smart deal because as far as a straight announcer, eventually you came, but you were an established guy with experience. How hard would it have been for Clay Conrad and Bob Young, both broadcasters, the Zero Wrestling until Channel 5 debuted that first show in March of 1977? How bad of a position were they put in? And do you know anything about either one of these guys that you could smarten us up?
Well, I think, and if my recollection is correct, the TV station wanted those guys to do it because they were employees of the TV station. And I think Clay wasn't he on one of the newscasts? And I think Bob was on radio. He was at WMC or WMC or at FM 100, and they wanted their guys on Channel 5 initially. And then, of course, Jerry stepped in and hired Lance, and they got Dave. And then, of course, Dave was the number one weather guy in the market at the time anyway. So they got 2 for 1, if you would. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and the only person that would probably still know is Jerry Jarrett, but it was dictated by Channel 5's management that these guys would do the host of the wrestling show once it came to 5.
The only one left that would know would be Jerry Lawler.
Well, Jerry would probably know, yes.
Obviously, we lost on Valentine's Day, I believe, a few years ago, Jerry Jarrett. Hey, what do you think, Tony, about a situation of these two guys being thrown in the fire?
Well, I do know that Channel 5 knew Lance was coming, and they knew Dave was coming. So I think they just didn't want to launch the show with an unknown quantity. And they thought probably that by putting their own guys on there, that was going to, solidify the launch. But they just didn't know about wrestling.
Adam has another picture for us. And Adam, when you get that video, Adam found a video. I told you I'd marry him.
He's a gutless wonder. And when we get in that ring, he knows lose that belt because I got your number, Johnson. I want you to realize that. You're low down. You're a backfighter. You're a coward. You're low, man. That's all you are. You're just low bred. And I'm going to stomp you. I'm going to make an example out of you, Johnson. All right, here.
There you go, and we go into that angle, and that's Clay Conrad. Didn't say a word.
Sort of a stone face.
No doubt about it. Comments from Michael real quick about that video we just saw. That's Clay Conrad, and we really didn't see what he could do because he didn't do nothing.
No, he was there. He was taking up space, as the old promoter used to say. He was just
I could imagine Jerry Jarrett just telling him, like, you won't have to do anything, just hold the mic.
What's funny is the way that Jerry Lawler was doing the promo, he was so used to interacting that there was no interaction, so his promo was off. It wasn't typical Jerry Lawler promo.
Yeah, I know that too.
James says, and put it up there again, as we also have people talking about James says, I grew up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Michael Station, what he listened to, and I'm sure Mr. Davis certainly loved that. And King of Kings Sport, spending a lot of time in Alabama. Fun 92.7, 104.9 is the best station ever. I listen every day, even when I'm in Tennessee. So great compliments there, Michael, for you.
I appreciate that very much. We work with a very small staff and a wonderful wife, and Archie Anderson and our new consulting engineer who has just turned us around. Hey, you'd like this, Tony. Our station went from sounding pretty good to being the loudest on the band without spending money.
Worth the weight in gold, a good engineer.
Indeed.
And your wife is probably the best general manager I've ever known, and I haven't even met her yet.
Matt says, the engineer says the same thing. Says he's the best general manager I've ever known. She's really good.
That is great stuff. And this show talks wrestling, talks Memphis wrestling. We also spend a lot of time talking broadcast. Another scenario I want to talk about is because we just saw an example that even though it's just for a couple of weeks, a cup of coffee, Clay Conrad and Bob Young was out of their element. Now, then eventually had a hell of a team, Michael St. John and Dave Brown. They did great. The radio business. Now, who stowed you away when you for quite some time you were co-hosting with Dave? Did you go work for Degum Tony? Is Tony responsible for you being pulled off the wrestling show? Where did you go from Dave and Michael at that very first time?
Well, my cat turned off the microphone. At the very first time, I went to Phoenix. I went to KOY and programmed and put Y95 on the air, hired Glenn Beck to do mornings and put Top 40 on the air in Phoenix. And the second time in the 90s, I moved to Los Angeles and did a consulting thing out of Los Angeles for a company called Hits, and was out there for 4.5 years. And a friend of Tony and myself, Bill Vines, and the consultant for Zimmer Broadcasting, John Lund, came down from San Francisco, and they wanted to put a morning team back on the air in St. Louis that had been blackballed because of some racial incidents. And when they were interviewing them, I still
have trauma from that, Michael. I still have trauma from that.
And I brought him from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham back in the day when I was with Mooney Broadcasting, into that position that you were in, Tony, for Mooney Broadcasting. Stephen DC.
Okay.
And they wanted to come back, and to Jerry and John Zimmer's credit, they gave him the chance. And they were talking to him, as the story I got. John Lund told me, I was in Los Angeles working in LA, and he told me that they had interviewed these guys. He came down to LA and had dinner with me. He had something he wanted to talk to me about, and it was the St. Louis job. And he said in the conversation it came up, and they said, well, we're going to be hiring a program director, who you guys work for, who we might look at. And Steve Shannon looked at him and said, well, the only programmer we ever liked was Michael St. John. He's the only one we ever got along with. So at that point, I think John Lund talked to John and Jerry Zimmer, and probably you, Tony, at that point, and said, we're going to go after, we're going to, should we go talk to this guy? And they hit me at the time that I wanted to get the hell out of Los Angeles. And as Tony will tell you, in our business, when you grow up in our business, you want to make it to Chicago, New York, or LA. Then you feel like you've made it. Well, I made it to LA, and it was like, boy, what a letdown. Because you get to LA and you have movie stars, and you have sports stars, and you have TV stars, and you have agents that make tons of money, and you have all these beautiful people. And you have a radio person down here on the bottom. Whereas in Nashville, if I wanted to get a pair of tickets to go see Rod Stewart, I made a phone call and I had a pair of tickets. In Los Angeles, we'll get back to you. So after 4.5 years of LA and traffic, bye-bye. So
well,
you guys,
the big problem with making it to New York, LA, or Chicago is one thing. They're not in the South.
True. Very true. Very true. Absolutely. And the people, it's tough to get along. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to jump in and see if Adam found something else he wanted me to throw to, a picture or something, or have we already done it? Adam, if you have something that we hadn't seen that you want to throw up there, if it's not. And here's the thing, two of the greatest announcers ever, Gordon Soley and Lance Russell. When Ole Anderson was working with Jerry Jarrett in 1984, and he lost his deal, and he was put on Saturday morning TV as Gordon Soley was. That was not going to play in all the other markets in Atlanta, so they used the Memphis tape. And so all of a sudden, one Saturday, Gordon Soley showed up on TV5 together, two of the greatest announcers ever. And I'm telling you, two of the greatest announcers ever, Gordon Soley and Lance Russell, as a team. I don't think the only time I'd ever say this about either one of them. Both guys. Lance sucked, Gordon sucked, they sucked together. It several weeks. It was two lead guys. All of a sudden, Memphis didn't buy Gordon. They loved Lance Russell like a grandfather. All of a sudden, after the first week, Gordon was positioned as the main announcer, probably because they wanted him that for the the Atlanta towns off of Atlanta TV and Macon and Columbus and the other team. But all of a sudden, Lance was more the sidekick. Gordon opened the show, did the interviews. It did not work. I would have bet every penny I had, which wasn't much back then, say Gordon and Lance together would be great. Why weren't they great, Tony?
Chemistry. I mean, it was a styles clash, in my opinion. I mean, like you said, one of them was phenomenal, but trying to put them both in there together where they were both trying to, fit into their comfort zone was really uncomfortable. And that uncomfortableness came across.
Pat?
I mean, I want to agree with Tony, and I'm the only one that's not a broadcast professional on here. I can't, and I'm sure all the Atlanta people, and I was more Atlanta than Memphis at that point, would like their guy, and all the Memphis people would like Lance. It was a train wreck of biblical proportions for both of them. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life. It just absolutely did not work, and nobody's to blame, and they're both to blame. I mean, there was zero. They're both, as I understand. I know a lot more about Lance than Gordon, but everything I've ever heard about Gordon was he's a really good guy. They just did not. It's like when you're single and somebody fixes you up with somebody and said you guys are perfect, you're just alike, you're made for each other, and you go out with it and you have zero. It just doesn't work. I mean, there was zero. I've never in the history of watching TV ever seen a two people on TV that had less chemistry and made me feel uncomfortable like those two did. I remember watching that clips of it and just thinking this is just it's cringe.
Michael,
And I don't think it was either one of them's fault.
I don't either at all. Before we put that subject to rest with Gordon and Lance together, Michael, before we get to the next announcer, can you put a bowl in Gordon and Lance together?
Well, first of all, they were too much alike because they both had and were used to a certain style. And just like Tony said, the chemistry wasn't there. But I think there's a little background story on that. I think both of them were such nice guys, both Gordon and Lance, that neither one of them wanted to step on the toes of the other one. So what you got was you got milk toast. You didn't get bacon and eggs. That to me is a perfect combination of two things that are great, bacon and eggs. You didn't get that. You got milk toast.
It's a good point, Michael. If you're going to dance, somebody's got to lead, right?
Right. And both of them were too nice. Neither one of them wanted to infringe upon the other one. And and you talk about being uncomfortable. I think they were uncomfortable with it too, but neither one of them was going to upsurge the other one, to their credit. And they both were stars. But let me say,
to bring about some exciting things.
Yeah, I think some of the folks know it, but how about running through the merger so more people will be aware of it? Because some people may not have heard about it yet, Gordon.
Okay, well, let's do that then. First of all, let's take a look at what has happened. There has been a merger of Fred Ward Promotions, Georgia Championship Wrestling from Georgia, Jim Crockett Promotions, and Jerry Jarrett Promotions, which means that Lance and I will be bringing you this program each week, and it's going to bring an influx of more talent, more competitors. I think it's going to just be a great thing for wrestling, and particularly for the wrestling fans.
By golly, just looking at today's program, I think Gordon is a good example of it, because we have some dynamite action coming up here today. We're going to be opening up with Ronnie Garvin, the national heavyweight champion. Will be in here in an opening bout, and it'll be our pleasure to see Ronnie in action right there.
Right. Jerry the King Lawler, the National Tag Team Champions, the Hollywood Blondes. Going to be a lot of great action, and I think you, the fans at home and at the arenas, are really going to get some added value out of this because of all the new talent.
I think it is an absolutely magnificent thing because so often, you hear people from a territory say, well, our people are better. This guy's the greatest champion. Now we're going to get an opportunity to see this influx of talent all over the entire territory.
Precisely.
Dynamo, tell you what we better do. We better get it on because we got a lot to do.
Again, Lance is the home team right now.
Right.
Now, turn around and show the Atlanta thing. I don't know if we have the tape, but the Atlanta thing, Gordon's the home team. And again, I'm just watching that and hearing Gordon stumble. How many times did you hear Georgia Championship Wrestling or on Channel 17 that Gordon said the word A 22 times in 40 seconds?
You did.
Yeah, they're just trying too hard. I too was thinking about what you said, Michael, and I can imagine both of them sitting there going, this doesn't feel right, and I don't think this is a good idea, but I'm just going to show them I can make it work. And I think they're both forcing it too much.
That's a good point too.
One thing, Lance was pissed because Dave Brown was his broadcasting kid. He brought him in. All of a sudden, with Gordon coming in, Lance didn't have Dave as a co-host. Dave was demoted to ring announcer, and he would do the out-of-town segments. And so Lance wasn't happy with that. Now, I want to go with the next thing. So you had Lance and Dave, and then you switched stations, and you had Clay Conrad and Bob Young, and that was a failure, but it wasn't meant to be a long-term guy. Then Lance Russell left. Finally, we got Michael St. John, who was an experienced wrestling broadcaster, and he clicked with the people. He went away. The next guy that came in, the first maybe year, I made fun of him. I wasn't with the I was mad at Jerry Jarrett. Imagine that, Pat, being mad at Jerry Jarrett. I still am today. Where's my money? Anyway, imagine me when I saw on television a guy, Corey Macklin, and I thought, this guy is the worst announcer I've ever seen in my life. But he was just starting. He did a little bit of radio before, and he was not a broadcaster, and he didn't click. He ended up 57-38 after coming in May of 91. By the end of Power Pro Wrestling in 2001, Corey was more over with the fans in attendance because he was a Memphis guy. And even though Dave was a Trenton guy and they loved and respected, that was like your grandfather. Corey was their buddy. Corey Macklin went from I think one year the Wrestling Observer voted him as the worst wrestling announcer ever to do wrestling announcers. By the way, people are getting a little impatient. We have more of a list and we're getting to it. We're doing the Tennessee territory right now and we'll get more national. Somebody mentioned Jesse Ventura. We're going to do color guys on a later date. This is host and play-by-play guy. Corey Macklin at the end was so good in Power Pro. I had baby faces in Power Pro, not as over as Corey Macklin. I think in the history of Power Pro, Lawler #1, Corey 2, Brandon Baxter 3, Dundee tied at 3. Corey Macklin was over, but by God, when it first happened in 1991, I'm thinking this guy didn't last. This guy lasted to 2001. And Pat, we show a lot of Power Pro stuff on this thing. Corey, from being the worst announcer we've ever seen for Power Pro, he was a star and he did a great job. And he and Dave had ungodly chemistry and really liked each other, and it showed on television. Corey Macklin talks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was was kind of late to Power Pro, but he and Dave really did have a chemistry that was unique. And I don't know what Corey's original background was, Randy, or how you how you got to bring him in, but
It was Lawler. It was Lawler that found him, and he was selling advertising for a newspaper, African American newspaper, and he was a big wrestling fan. And just to give you an idea of their chemistry, this is the first Power Pro show, and I play this to death because I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And we'll go back to Power Pro. And Dave and Corey was established from the end of the USWA. And then obviously Dave and Corey both left, and Michael joined the show and did a great job. The only bright spot of the end of USWA with the political mess going on, Michael St. John was the star. But we'll go back, and Adam working hard finding this video we'll play now. This is Dave and Corey together. I think he said that we have that, and I better look at my notes, and because it's up and
while you're looking for that, Randy, was part of the thing of Corey coming on, wasn't he supposed to sell advertising for the show also?
I think so.
I think that was part of it too. In fact, I was told that.
After Power Pro went off the air, we don't have Dave and Corey together, but after Power Pro went off the air, eventually Corey Channel 30 and also did some stuff, best of stuff, and we'll watch this now.
All right. Hello again, everybody. I'm Corey Macklin. At ringside today, another big day of championship wrestling, and I have some bad news and I have some good news on today. The bad news is Michael St. John's is out. He's ill. He's had a serious surgery. Hope he'll do well. And Dave Brown's out today. His daughter is getting married. But the good news is I'm here, and I have a special co-host with me today. We were trying to get in touch with him and see if we could get him out here, and we got him in the last minute. Hopefully he's here today. Here he is now. Here's my co-host with us today, the king himself, Jerry Law.
All right, and Adam is telling me in this situation, this is Corey's first show. They say Michael was sick and Dave's daughter was getting married. Any memories of this? And great work by Adam. This was Corey's first show.
That was my kidney surgery. That was my second kidney surgery, and I'd been doing the Dallas show and had a kidney stone attack, and had a kidney stone taken out of me about the size of the tip of my baby finger, the little finger. So it was not a pleasurable time in my life. I've had 3 of those surgeries, but that was exactly what happened then. And let me say this about Corey. I loved his enthusiasm. I mean, you can say what you want to about his commentary or whatever. He always had great enthusiasm, and he always, you could tell, was striving to do the very best that he's being asked to do.
And did a great job. Tony, I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch toward the end of from 91 on to USWA or any of the Power Pro stuff, but your thoughts on Corey Macklin?
Yeah, I didn't like Corey very much at the beginning, but by the time he was working for you, I mean, he had really polished up. You know, one of the things that I used to do in working with air talent is when they first come to work, or maybe they were kind of rookies in the business, I'd take their first couple of tapes and just shove them in my desk drawer. And then I'd wait about a year and then pull them back out a year later and let them hear what they sounded like a year before. And the improvement was always drastic. And over that whole time period we're talking about here, Corey's improvement was really, really drastic.
Our friend Richard Hood says, Tony, this is Richard Hood, Jerry Oaks' friend from Messenger, and he's enjoying watching you. Our friend Richard Hood, one of the friends of the show, Team Hales. So he says hi to you, Tony.
All right. Hey, Richard. Thanks for watching, man.
Michael, we're going to go back a blast again. Adam is really working overtime today. This is Michael and Corey together. I believe, as I look at the comment to make sure, this is is no, this is Corey. This is Corey and Dave first show ever together, and we're going to watch this quick clip right now, and then we will continue on with Tennessee area announcers. Let's watch the video.
Day of USWA Championship Wrestling. Michael St. John's taking the day off. We have our able assistant today, Corey Macklin, who's going to be joining us and got quite a show coming up. Corey.
Oh, we do, Dave. We do. What a lineup. Doug Masters, Bart Sawyer will be in today. The new kids, Brian and Tony, with us also as well. Also, the Missouri Tiger, Jeff Gaylord. I know we all remember him. He's back on the card today. Dr. Tom Pritchard will be here, and a six-man tag match. What a tag team match. Eric Embry, Billy Joe Travis, Dog of War versus Jeff Jarrett, Robert Fuller, and William the Freezer Thompson.
Oh, my goodness. What a main event coming up. What a show we've got here today.
Great card.
Opening up with Masters and Sawyer. Masters and Sawyer out of the Pacific Northwest. Now, here's Dog of War out here.
All right. That is Corey and Dave together for the very first time. I want to go with picture 5742 real quick. And this, again, we've spent several minutes talking about the great Gordon Soley. 5742 is Gordon Soley, and in championship wrestling from Florida, he was absolutely amazing. And he became a great star in professional wrestling, a great star as we go with that right now. He was born on January 26, 1929. He passed away July 27th of 2000. This is Gordon Soley, and obviously we saw a lot of Georgia championship wrestling, but Michael, what brought him to the dance was Florida, and Eddie Graham hired him as a ring announcer years ago in the 50s, paid him $5 a shot to ring announce. Then he became the host. He became good and became famous. I read a quote. He used to ask a wrestler, and this is dangerous in Florida with all the shooters, to actually put him and Hodes in the dressing room so he could explain how that feels. That, Michael, I don't know if Lance would have done that, you would have done that, anybody else. That's dedication to your craft big time. Don't you agree? Having a hold put on you. Here's Michael St. John.
I wonder how many times he got stretched.
Yeah.
Probably a lot, no doubt about it. Here's another guy, 5739. We talked about him a little, and Michael, go ahead and everybody knows that Jackie Fargo. Go ahead and start our conversation on Harry Thornton.
Yep, that's the Pride of Chattanooga morning show on Channel 12. Of course, he had the radio show on WDEF radio. Is that a blood stain on that that backdrop, or is that the picture? But it looks like somebody just got shot against that blood drop. It looks like a blood stain to the left of Harry.
I think so too.
Harry Thornton embodied Chattanooga. And I think that's one thing, if we want to get across on this show, is something we talked about earlier, Randy, is that each individual announcer of each individual wrestling show became iconic in that market for that particular taste and that particular talent of being the wrestling announcer. Like Grady Reeves here in Huntsville, Harry Thornton in Chattanooga, of course, Sterling Brewer in Birmingham, Lance and Dave in Memphis. You had Gil Green and Smiling Jack Simpson in Nashville. You know, and Tony, I was bringing this up to Randy and talking to Pat. Of all the territories in America, name another territory that had multiple cities that had live studio wrestling on Saturday to promote the upcoming week shows. It wasn't the case in the Crockett's territory. It wasn't the case in Atlanta. You had two shows at one time in Atlanta because you had rival promoters. But every major city in Nick's territory had TV except Louisville. And Randy, I think it was you telling me that at one time Louisville tried an experiment with George Goulas and Lynn Rossi for about 3 weeks. And I look back, and I think it was at Channel 3 at Wave TV.
Channel 41.
Oh, okay. So it was when the new UHF came on, but it didn't last. But in every other major city in the Goulas Welch territory, you had a live TV show on Saturday to promote the upcoming week's matches.
Yeah,
there's a horrific clip of that, Michael, and they've got like a sheet.
Art card, like an art card?
No, it's like a flip chart.
Oh, okay.
And they've got written on there matches in pencil. And Lynn walks up and says, well, today's matches are going to be this, and that'll be exciting. And then we're going to have this. It was just so bad. I wish I could find that.
Tony,
so 41, DJB, WDBJ, something like that.
I'm not sure. Tony, your thoughts quickly on
I was just going to address what Michael was saying. Back in the late 50s and early 60s, after Nick and Roy had such success in Nashville on WSIX with the live studio show, it was one of their promotional tactics by the booking office that they told their local town promoters, if you can get a studio show in your town to promote wrestling and do a show, just go ahead and get one, and we'll get the talent there to do the show. So they ended up with 10 or 12 live television shows throughout the week. Bowling Green had one, Paducah had one, Jackson, Tennessee had one. There were several studio shows throughout the entire week. Some of them were on Tuesdays, some of them were on Thursdays, some of them were on Saturdays. And they just had all these guys. Lester was flying guys around to all these different television shows. And Harry Thornton, his show started in 1960 in Chattanooga. And they did something with Harry that they also did with Grady in Huntsville, was they made him a 33% partner just in Chattanooga. So they made him a promotional partner. So it was in his best interest to get the show over and get the matches over and get the tickets sold in Chattanooga.
It was also a great way to get sponsors to sponsor wrestling. And Grady Reeves did that. Like you said, he had Piece of the Huntsville promotion. Jack Welch was the promoter by name here, but he had Snow White Drive-In, home of the broasted chicken. And he put over broasted chicken he had Larry's Pistol and Pawn. And he would bring a gun and show a gun and do a live commercial on the TV show and show a gun. And one of Grady's famous quotes was, "It'll shoot a mile and throw rocks the rest of the way."
Oh my gosh!
I mean, you remember those things.
I wish we would have had that. And I'll mention another guy too that I didn't bring him up during the Welch series on Briscoe and Bradshaw. And I don't know that I've ever mentioned him. I've had him in my research for a while. But Ron Lowry was the host in Jackson, Tennessee.
The original host was Lance Russell.
Yeah, that's right. In the late 50s. That's right. Before
Lance went from Jackson Channel 7 to Channel 13. Harry Lovable, Harry and Adam or Michael and I talked today. He would give the Hills in a different sort of way than Lance would. Lance was more disappointing. Harry would bow up on Tojo. Knowing Tojo, I'm surprised Tojo didn't chop the crap out of him, Michael.
Yeah.
I know Nick in the dressing room, when I first started doing the TV show in Chattanooga, when Harry had his heart attack and I was going down, Nick was driving me down in the Lincoln Continental and on I-24 Nashville to Chattanooga, 110 miles an hour, driving the center line all the way and waving at the state troopers as he'd go through and they'd wave back. It was an amazing, amazing sight. But he told me the first time I ever did the show, he said, just don't go out there and don't pick a fight with the boys. He says, you're there to get the boys over, because Harry would always do that. That's a great point, but it always rubbed Nick the wrong way.
5740, the next picture. And Michael, describe this sucker as we go with the next picture. 5740.
Well, that's Pat Trammell's hero, and mine, without a doubt, Sterling Brewer. And your commentator, Sterling Brewer, as the announcer would say at 10 o'clock. And, of course, the bicentennial babies, the the late, great Phil Hickerson and the late, great Dennis Condrey. Sterling Brewer, as I said before, owned an advertising agency in Birmingham called Sterling Advertising. A classic man, became a minister, I think, later in life, Pat, if I'm not mistaken, had his own congregation. But one of the treats of watching Channel 42 wrestling on Saturday night was they had a sponsor, and I'm sure it was one of Sterling's accounts, Epps Jewelry. And Taft Epstein. And Taft Epstein had a monkey that played the cymbals. And he'd wind it up, and that monkey would play the cymbals, and he'd bring all his jewelry out and display these watches and these diamonds and these rings and all. And I think only once did any of the wrestlers ever get into or actually knock down the display. And I think it really hacked off Taft Epstein. But you remember that, Pat, that you'd see Taft Epstein and he'd say, he'd play that monkey and he'd say, "So long, everybody," and he'd wave, and that monkey'd still be playing those cymbals.
That's right. The Birmingham, the sponsors on the Birmingham were two Jewish businesses, Taft Epstein's Jewelry and Levy's with Rhododendronburg.
Hey, Tony.
Rhododendronburg's mother, right? Or cousin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Joe Denenberg was, of course, the promoter for Birmingham.
Yeah.
Historian Tony Richard, what do you know about Sterling Brewer?
Oh, just that, when I was growing up and we got the Nashville, Tennessee show that was taped in Nashville. We got the Memphis show on for Evansville, but then for Paducah, we got the Nashville show. And every now and then, of course, the matches crossed over and the wrestlers crossed over, and some of the matches would be promoted across the territory. And we'd get the matches from Birmingham, sort of like you'd see on the Memphis show. You'd see matches from the Mid-South Coliseum. Well, on the Nashville show, you'd see matches from Huntsville, or you'd see matches from Birmingham, and we'd see Sterling Brewer calling those matches. And I just remember thinking how good he was at the time.
Sterling was really, really good. He really was. Just in retrospect, I wish they had, they taped over all of those, and I wish we had some, because he was really good in moments of chaos.
I can remember his reaction the night that the interns painted Bearcat Brown white in the middle of the ring. And he was just total shock. And when the camera went on to him, you could see in his face that it was as if somebody had just humiliated the entire city.
Well, that was one thing I was going to bring up about Gordon that was a little bit different about Gordon and Lance, was that Gordon Soley was not smartened up. When they would do television, he had no idea what was going to happen. Like Eddie Graham would not cue him in on anything that was going to happen on the show. So everything you saw Gordon react to was his actual reaction.
That's interesting. The next picture is 5741, and we talked about him earlier, Grady Reeves, and I wish we had an older picture, or maybe that's it. And, certainly, is there his style, Michael? I'll ask you, but the other two guys, Pat and Tony, can answer too. Who would you compare him with other wrestling hosts, Michael?
He and Harry Thornton were twin sons of different mothers. I mean, he was totally a Harry Thornton personality, both in real life and on TV. He's in front of 1230 WBHP, the country station that Buster M. Pollard owned here in Huntsville, one of the three original stations in Huntsville. He was a news announcer. He was a sportscaster. He did play-by-play of high school sports. And his son, Robert, took his place on the Morning Folks show on Channel 19, which was #1 in the morning, beat the Today Show forever and ever in this market. And he was a great talent. My personal story about Grady Reeves, my mother sold him his first wedding ring when she was working for the Dual Shop on Washington Street in Huntsville. My mother was 4 foot, all of 4'3", and Grady Reeves was a big guy, and Grady came in and she sold him his first wedding. I'll never forget her telling the story, and then meeting Grady. And then when Grady found out who my mother was, the first thing he said to me was, "Your mother sold me my wedding ring." So, I mean, he was a character, but he was totally a Harry Thornton kind of character.
Richard, real quick, breaking the conversation about Grady Reeves, but I said I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it, as we're not we're sticking to topic, but not certainly Grady here. Richard says, Tony, didn't Eddie Graham not allow any of the wrestlers to touch Gordon Solie? I think any promotion, it was a rare situation. Obviously, Gordon Solie was eventually attacked by Magnificent Morocco in Georgia, but most promoters didn't want you to lay hands on the announcer. So
that was Ole's booking. But Eddie was, his whole description was, Gordon is our Johnny Carson. And of course, in the 1960s, Johnny was becoming the premier host of a talk show. That was the model that people looked at. And Eddie always said, he's our Johnny Carson. You wouldn't go out on the Tonight Show and the guest doesn't, attack Johnny or put Johnny down or put Johnny in a bad light. And we don't do that to Gordon either. And of course, Lance never got touched except for Troy Graham, but
that was an accident.
Yeah.
That wasn't laid up. That was an accident. Dream Machine was running out to confront him on a video he played, and he was running full speed and couldn't stop and ran over Lance, and then he had to go with it. That was not laid out because Jarrett and Lawler both, and Lance too. Lance's wife was ready to grab a gun and head to the TV station for sure. We got about 25 minutes left in this show. We're going to switch gears right now. Michael had a comment.
Just real quick about Lance Russell and not being touched. The video where I got attacked in the studio when Lance and I are doing the show by Tommy Dreamer, and Dreamer came in and blew up the whole studio, and Lawler told him he couldn't touch Lance, but Michael would be okay. But the funny part about that is after it was over with, Tommy came over to me and said, "You okay? Everything?" I said, "Yeah, it's fine. I appreciate it. Everything was fine." He said, "Lance," he said, "Jerry Lawler said I couldn't touch Lance." He said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Listen, that's fine." And he looked at me and he said, "I wouldn't have touched Lance anyway." Perfect.
That is great. We're going to switch gears. We've concentrated on the Jarrett and also the Gulas Welch announcement. And this just has been, I've liked this subject. And again, we're back to our roots. And this has been fun. I appreciate Pat and Michael and our special guest, Tony. Tony, we're going to take advantage of you and have you come back. We're going to switch gears a little bit to see what, again, we have less than 25 minutes left in this show today, trying to hit our marks today. 5744 is the next graphic that we're going to show. And this from the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. In his first on-camera role, Vince McMahon. Pat, the early days of Vince McMahon. First time you ever saw Vince McMahon as an announcer. I know you probably, after watching Tennessee wrestling and Georgia wrestling, then you saw New York wrestling, and you probably thought, what in the hell? Or as Lance would say, what in the Sam Hill is going on with this? What did you think about Vince?
Early on, it was very, very strange to me. It looked very, very staged. And I think it had something to do with me having nothing in common with all those ethnic wrestlers that were there. You know, that they played that, and I don't know. We had two ethnicities in Southern wrestling, but we grew up with both of them, right? But it was different to me, and I'll say this: I remember a friend of mine and I were sitting there watching it, and as Jerry Jarrett often said, you suspend disbelief when you're watching good wrestling. I couldn't suspend disbelief. I said, that stuff's not real. And then I would turn on, Georgia Championship, and Dusty was real. So, but it seemed so staged to me, and in some respects, it still does, and obviously it is. But it never felt authentic to me.
Hey,
maybe that's a Southern thing.
Is Vince on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling announcers?
No. Absolutely not.
Tony?
Not close.
I got you. He's not on mine either. Tony, your quick comments as now for 22 minutes left in the show on a great Talking Memphis Wrestling. Vince McMahon, quick thoughts as an announcer, and is he on your wrestling announcer Mount Rushmore?
I got total respect for Vince for a lot of different things, but announcing is not one of them. I just, I think he replaced Ray Morgan, and Ray Morgan was phenomenal. I mean, he was really, really good. And Vince was just kind of, Ray Morgan, I think, was holding up Vince Sr. for a little bit more money. And I think he told him he wasn't going to pay him anymore. And he just kind of stuck Vinny Jr. in there to do the television, and it stuck. And of course, Vince was also promoting the state of Maine at the time. And I mean, it worked for them, but it didn't work for me.
Good.
And he is not on your Mount Rushmore.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm not sure he comes in the top 25.
Okay, gotcha. Michael St. John, your comments on Vince McMahon, not as a promoter, as an announcer, and is he on your Mount Rushmore?
Stiff, arrogant, knew it all. That was when I would watch him. That's what I felt. Stiff, arrogant, knew it all. You talked about Ray Morgan, multiple sport announcer, again, doing wrestling. He was the guy. In fact, I want to say he was the voice of the Maryland Terrapins at one time.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, great announcer, great wrestling announcer. So a good point on that, Tony.
57-45, if you take the wrestling world as a whole, this guy, with the work he did in Mid-South Wrestling for Bill Watts, that was fantastic. Tony did a series on the Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel in 1985. Jim Ross was so good. WCW, pretty good. Attitude Era, he became a star. So in my national wrestling list of what we're talking about, great announcers, without a doubt, Jim Ross at his best is hard to beat. I mean, it really is. He got over. He was unique. Vince didn't like him because he was from Oklahoma, but Jim Ross had a hell of a living. Pat, the question I'm asking, is Jim Ross in your Mount Rushmore as a whole in professional wrestling?
No, it's tough. I like him a lot. I think he's had a fantastic career, but not really. No.
Very
and I don't say that without a lot of respect.
Tony, Jim Ross.
Probably not on my Rushmore. He'd probably be in my top 10. I think he is the only guy I can think of that was a referee and then an announcer, which I thought always he was also a sports referee, a football, basketball referee too, before he got into wrestling, which I always thought gave him a really unique perspective on calling matches. And he had one of the best storytellers that's ever been in our business, and Bill Watts as a mentor, which I think really, really helped him tell a story on television. I like Jim a lot. I think he's really, really good, but he probably isn't in my top 4.
And I can tell you, as far as announced teams with a Hill announcer, and we're not talking color guys very much in this show today, but I think with Ross, I have to say this. Certainly Lawler and Ross as a team is on the Mount Rushmore, my Mount Rushmore as the team. Michael, your thoughts on Jim Ross?
You sort of stole my thunder, just bubbling under my Mount Rushmore, but Jim Ross was better when he had a color commentator that was pushing him to be good. And on his own, he was good, but he was really good when he had somebody like Jerry Lawler or whoever was sitting, even when he and Cornette were together. He was better when he had a great pusher coming out from the heel side. Jesse Ventura. I mean, whoever he was with made him better. He's and I love Jim Ross. I will not say anything bad about Jim Ross ever. He did more for our business on the announcer side, probably more so than anybody else other than Gordon Soley on a national level. But he was better when he had somebody beside him that was even better at what they did.
Well, there you go again. There for a little while on TBS on Crockett, they had Ross and Shivani together.
That's right.
Which I didn't think worked well because you had two lead guys. And then they had David Crockett on there too. And that was really a crowded field with those three guys.
Yeah, I never got the David Crockett thing. I thought he was the drizzling shits. But
he's not on this list we're talking about.
And so was Shivani. I mean, Shivani is, I'm sorry, but I never caught on to Shivani. I always thought Shivani was, you could put up a stand-up, a cardboard stand-up and made the mouth move, and you had Tony Shivani.
Yeah, it was just me thinking back to, we were talking about Gordon and Lance being together. I mean, when they put Tony and Ross together, I didn't think that worked well either.
Same premise.
We'll get to Tony in a little bit. A guy that I think worked for the territories that he was in. He was a great wrestler in the Carolinas and all over. The next picture is 57-46, and Tony, we'll start with you because I don't know how much you've been able to see tapes of Ron Fuller Southeastern Wrestling from Knoxville. Les was the brains behind the production of that show and helped with the format and that sort of thing. He started in production and in broadcasting off the air for Jim Crockett Promotion. Les Thatcher had a hell of a show with Southeastern Championship Wrestling. Quick thoughts, Tony.
Oh yeah, I mean, and Les has become a really good friend of mine as well, and he's given me so much knowledge that I've looked for and research, and he was there for so much of it in the 60s and the 70s. And you're right, I mean, he was a television pioneer as far as he basically invented the personality profile segment, and it was just fantastic. I've got nothing but respect for Les.
Pat?
I've got Les along with somebody else on my unsung heroes. Les is almost on my. If you move Lance away, Les is probably on or close to my top four, my Mount Rushmore. I think he's outstanding. I always have.
I think he's outstanding as well. Michael, Les Thatcher.
Good wrestler. A lot of people forget he started out as a wrestler and worked with him as a wrestler when I first started. Great voice. I always thought that Les had a great voice, a natural voice for play-by-play and for wrestling commentary. Great work in Knoxville. Also, didn't he work out of Cincinnati for a while and did some Ohio Valley stuff too?
Yeah, I would let you broke in up there.
Yeah, good guy, good wrestling commentator without a doubt.
And a great trainer as well. I really think this guy does not give recently. I mean, he's just a great 57-47, 57-47. The next picture that we have up there, and Tony, take it away.
Well, Bob Cottle, I mean, goodness gracious. We were talking earlier about how many different studio shows different promotions had, and Bob was always the lead guy in Crockett, WRAL in Raleigh, North Carolina. They did have 3 or 4 studio shows back in the 60s, but they eventually consolidated those. And Bob, just a fantastic legend, an aide to Senator Jesse Helms in the North Carolina state government for years. And, you know, there in 1989, WCW had Lance, they had Gordon, they had Bob Cottle and Jim and Tony Schiavone. And so that, I mean, they had an embarrassment of announcing talent there for just a year or two in WCW.
13 minutes left in this show. We may go a couple minutes over. Real quick comments about Bob. Pat.
He's on my list. You know, understated, not a little bit maybe under the radar for some people, but I think he's as good as it gets.
He's the Bobby Eaton of wrestling announcers.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, you never hear a bad word about him, you know.
Boom.
Yeah, you never hear a bad word about him, and his work is excellent.
Yeah. And totally over in his territory. I don't think he had the national prominence that a Jim Ross or even a Tony Schiavone or some of the others later, the Gordon Solys later on had. But I think in his territory and in his element, excellent.
For sure. Very interesting with all these guys. Now, I got this idea. I stole this idea of the Mount Rushmore of announcers because I've listened to Busted Open Radio with who does Busted Open Radio? Bully Ray, and what's the host guy's name?
Dave
LaGreca.
Dave LaGreca. Yeah.
They did one, and here is who both of them, Bully and their lead guy on pro wrestling, the deal that we're looking, the Mount Rushmore is this guy right now, and I strongly disagree. Even though he's lasted a long time, and Kevin Dunn and Vince McMahon loved him. 57-48, 57-48, Michael Cole. Real quick, let's don't spend a lot of time. He's not on my list at all. I respect him for surviving as long as he did, as long as he's still doing. But Pat Trammell, Michael Cole.
Nah.
Tony?
I don't know. I'm biased so much because the business is so different than it was in the past. And I never thought, when I was a fan watching wrestling, I never thought of the announcer working for the promoter. I sort of felt like the announcer was part of the station I was watching. And exactly Michael is undoubtedly a WWF employee. I mean, when I listen to him, it's so much hype about all of that it turns me off.
So not on your Mount Rushmore.
Oh no. Michael, but there again, and this is, I kind of came to this conclusion when I started thinking about these announcers. Unless you're 60 years old or older, you got very few people to even compare to. And so, Michael's been doing this for 25 years on WWF. So, I mean, these guys he's probably the guy they grew up with, and he's not on my Mount Rushmore.
Michael,
he does the basics, but I don't get past the basics. I look at him and I hear him, and I'm like you, Tony, I hear a PR machine. I hear somebody just doing the company line. And not that he's a bad announcer, but I'm like you. To me, the announcer is supposed to be impartial and is supposed to be the guy that connects what they see in the ring to the fans that buy the ticket. And I'm not sure he does that.
Next deal we're going to take a look at real briefly because we talked about him and has a tremendous broadcasting history that we talked about. 57-50, Bill Mercer. I don't know if he's on my Mount Rushmore because I didn't make my own list. I asked you guys to do it, but I didn't make my own list, to tell you the truth. To Bill Mercer, I did when I watched World Class. I did like him very well. 57-51, we talked about Tony Schiavone. I don't like his work in AEW. Certainly, Tony was better than David Crockett for sure. I'll give him that. The next one, I'm going to throw the show over because this is somebody that's not on my list. I think he's on Michael's, and it's somebody that I just flat out didn't see. Very little. Michael, let's turn it over to you for 57-49. 57-49. Michael St. John.
That's Larry Matzik, and I had an opportunity to meet Larry when I worked in St. Louis the first time at Hot 97, and then again at Q104. Larry is a classy guy, very, very strong on the microphone. I always like the way Larry presented the matches. Of course, Sam Munchnick is right there with him, and he's got it in his ear and everything. A lot of people would say, "Well, you were just listening to Sam," and through Larry's mouth. I don't buy that. I think if Larry would have been on the national stage, he would have been as big as a Jim Ross would be, if not bigger.
Very, very interesting. Tony, what did you think about Larry? Did you watch much?
A little.
You worked so much in St. Louis. right?
That's right. And I was very connected with a lot of broadcasting people in St. Louis back in those same years that Michael was there, and met Larry a few times and talked with him. And anybody who's ever read any of Larry's written work, any of his books, knows that he knew wrestling and he knew wrestlers and was such a knowledgeable. And he was sort of like so if Pat O'Connor was the booker for Sam, Larry was almost like Pat's assistant booker, and was really, really good at that. And I thought Larry put the product and the boys over really, really well.
In a weird sort of way, Tony, Larry kind of reminded me a bit of like Sterling, because he he had that little play-by-play thing about him, but then could change gears and promote what he had to promote.
He did. He had a lot more treble in his voice than, Sterling had a good deep bass voice, and Larry's voice was a little high, but his technical was really good.
Pat, how about Larry? Did you see much of him? I did not.
Didn't see any of it.
We are going to sum it up, and let me grab the Lance Russell microphone from the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. And I don't think this will surprise anybody. You guys, we're going to end it this way, and we're going to go around the horn here, and I will start this thing with the Mount Rushmore of announcing. And I'm Memphis wrestling born, Memphis wrestling bred. And when Randy Hales by God dies, I'll be Memphis wrestling dead. My Mount Rushmore of announcing are all Memphis announcers. Imagine that. It is the only order, the number one, I'll fight anybody for it. I don't care if it's in China. Lance Russell, the greatest I've ever seen. The next group in the group of my Mount Rushmore of announcing is the absolutely, and Randy West says, great show tonight. And Randy, I appreciate it. Love you as well. Lance Russell, Dave Brown, again, Memphis wrestling guy, Michael St. John, and that's that guy that just passed out. And the fourth is Corey Macklin. Because did he start as the worst? Yes. By the end, he was over. He was exciting, and he clicked with the people. White, black, it didn't matter. Young, old, it didn't matter. He was over, and that's my four. Pat, as we sum it up, it doesn't have to be Memphis related at all. Sum up the Mount Rushmore in no particular order unless you want to. You're number four, and I think you made the list.
Well, we didn't talk about one of my unsung heroes who I think is as good as anybody. I absolutely do, and that's Charlie Platt. And I had him on here.
I actually thought I had a graphic of him, and I guess I did not save that. That's my bad. I saved a picture of him, but apparently I did not put that on there, and I am sorry about it. So one more time, real quick, give me your four.
Well, I'm leaving Lance and Michael off, okay? Because that's obvious for everybody for me, okay? I'm gonna go with Gordon, Charlie, Les, and Sterling Brewer.
All right, very good. Tony?
Well, I'm going to do the obvious ones. I've got Lance and Gordon and Bob Caudle, and then who I started out talking about at the top of the show is Sterling Brewer. And I would put a special mention in for a guy from Texas who was the Amarillo announcer for a long time. He was the Southwest announcer for a long time, Steve Stack, who I thought was phenomenal.
He was good. He was good as well. Michael?
Didn't see a lot of Steve Stack. There are a couple of people we didn't mention. Moralo, the Moralo guy that's still active and does some wrestling now. Tony, you probably, I forget his first name. He's pretty good. The guy that, and I can't think, I can see him, I can't think of his name, did some Ring of Honor stuff a few years ago, is good. Mike Tenay. Had he been on a different promotion at a different time and a bigger stage, I think a lot of people would have put Mike Tenay up on that list. My top five, and I'm going from a broadcaster standpoint, are Lance, Gordon, 1221, however you want to put it. Larry Matzik and Bill Mercer.
Very good, and I think that is fair. Now, I want to jump around, and certainly, as somebody said, they were awesome. So happy to hear Corey Macklin make your list, and he absolutely did for sure. Adam brought up a question, and just a quick answer, guys, is Adam Dunn, our producer, says, best wrestling TV station. He has a choice of two. WTBS or TV5. TBS or TV5, and I'm assuming he means as a wrestling show, and we know what I would say, TV5. Pat, answer that question.
I gotta go with TV5, I think.
Tony?
Well, I mean, that's what I grew up with. I mean, I didn't see TBS until like 1981. So, I mean, now years almost of the Memphis show and then the other shows that were coming in from Goulas Welch. So, I mean, the Tennessee wrestling shows are always going to be my baseline.
And that's kind of a battle between local television and national thing. And also he's asking real quick again, as we're getting toward the end, and we are going to go overtime, and I didn't want to, but we're going to. Which TV station was most invested into the wrestling product? I say TV5 up until Turner bought WCW, and then it was they worked against them more than they worked with them. So how would you answer that question?
I think Turner was very invested in it because when Ann Gunkel left in 72 and started her own promotion, he gave her another hour on television. Instead of picking sides, he put both wrestling shows on. And then by the time most of us saw TBS, it had more wrestling on it. It had an hour on Saturday morning and 2 hours on Saturday night and then an hour on Sunday night. So it had more wrestling, but I still enjoyed the product better from Tennessee.
Michael?
I think the question that was asked about what show was better, I think the 5 show was produced much better. I thought it was much more of a live, instantaneous kind of, you didn't feel like, it wasn't clunky. And I always felt the show was very comfortable. It was comfortable for announcers to do, for sure. And the floor, and a lot of that is the floor director. And I know the director in the booth is good, and you guys know his name, and I forget his name all the time. But the floor director that we had at 5 was unbelievable. And you didn't feel like things happened.
Bob Crone.
Bob Crone. And everything that happened at 5, you sort of felt like, oh my God, look what just happened. And you didn't always get that feeling at TBS, on the TBS show. The TBS show was more of, this is the segment, this is the segment, this is the segment. Where 5, hell, a damn right could break out at the beginning of the show or the end of the show. So I thought 5 was much more well-produced. As far as TV stations that were more invested in it, I would have to give the nod to TBS for the reasons Tony said.
And also, too, I have this question come up all the time, too, and the way I answer it is Tennessee wrestling, when it's booked the way Tennessee wrestling is supposed to be booked and has been booked, it's always successful. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's in Atlanta. It doesn't matter if it's in Mid-South Wrestling. It doesn't matter where it is. If it's Tennessee wrestling booking, it always gets over. So I think that's another reason that the TV5 show would always be the favorite, because it was produced in a way that Tennessee wrestling was produced.
Before we do our last take, I want to do a cheap plug. Folks, I appreciate the audience. Michael, they stayed with us and they went with the subject, and that is great. And
it's Tony's fault. It's Tony's fault.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a guest. You can blame me.
Hey, I want to plug my Thursday night show. The Thursday night show will be the Randy Hales show at 7:00, and it will be 7:00 Central. I will post on my social and on this show. Ask Randy anything, any subject you want to talk about, any promotion. Of course, I know more about Memphis than any others, but I'm pretty intelligent and well read on professional wrestling. You can send in questions or or type them in during the show, or I will have links. You can come on the show, and if any of you guys want to join us Thursday, just let me know off the air, on the air, or anywhere you want to, and I'll send you links to or join the show. But that's Thursday night at 7 Central. Man, I think this is a fantastic show, and as our special guest today, I will say you gotta check out Tony Richards Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel. And the way I do it is just search it on YouTube, and you'll be as mad as Tony as I was because I couldn't stop. It cost me money, Tony. It cost me money because when I should have been out working and driving and making money, I was watching your stuff. I had it on in my car when I was waiting for a ride and got so enthralled into your shows, I would shut off my app where I couldn't get another ride. You cost me money. But check out Tony Richards Pro Wrestling Time Tunnel. What would you suggest to our audience? So literally, there's Bo, all Tennessee wrestling. I'll get to it on my clothes, Bo. I've already mentioned it earlier. I'll plug your ass. Chill out a little bit, by fucking God.
I love it.
Ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Hey, listen, I got to throw something Tony's way. It's a great. You need to subscribe to it because I get it. It's like I get two. I used to get a couple of newspapers in the morning before I get to the morning show when I did the morning show.
Hey, me.
Whatever. But I got to tell you, I've subscribed to Tony. And I'm reading his daily newsletter the way I read the New York Post every day. It's once you get hooked on it, all you got to do is read it twice, and that's it. You got to read it every day. So, wow. Tony, great job on that. Great writer, by the way. He does a great job on these shows, but he's a great writer as well. And let me tell you, I haven't been duped lately. Now, I get duped in life quite a bit, but I haven't been duped lately. But I think Tony pulled one over on me. He told me he wanted me to come on the show and talk about Phil Hickerson's legacy, and I did. And then he turned it into a Michael St. John deep dive. And I appreciate that, Tony. There are a lot of kin folks on my dad's side of the family in Ohio, in the Cincinnati, Dayton area, that I've been hearing from over the past week that I don't ever hear from because I sent a link to them. I emailed them a link, and they've been watching it, and I've got reconnected with a lot of my cousins who I absolutely love, and thank you for that. But thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for coming on, man. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Tony, answer my question. If one of our audience jumps in at the Pro Wrestling Tony Richards Time Tunnel, what would you suggest the first place? I would say the Michael St. John interview and the series on 1985. Where would you suggest they start?
Yeah, they could do that for sure. But, if they like this show, of course, talking Memphis wrestling, they might want to go to Tennessee 1975 or Tennessee 1976 shows that we have, because we go in depth for those years, which a lot of video isn't available. So we hear a lot from people that they like those because they can find out about the history because there's no video to watch.
I did not see that, and that's my next thing. Pat, you're the one that gets the credit. You discovered Tony. Your thoughts on this show today?
Well, I think it's been great. I mean, it's great to talk about, as much as we talk about wrestling and all that, the people that bring it to us are the people behind the mic. And Michael, thank you for your work on that. And it's, I heard it all on the radio. Well, you heard it all from Lance and Michael and Gordon and Charlie Platt and everything. And it's, it's the soundtrack of our lives. And you really can't overemphasize that, I don't think.
I want to get the plug, and then Michael, I'm going to have you get us off here in your last take. The very last graphic of Southern States Wrestling, the Power Half Hour. And this will be his first TV taping. Now, I saw pictures of the ring he had ordered from Mike Sample. I saw the first championship belt for Southern States Wrestling. Bo is working hard as he can work. Southern States Wrestling presents Hoops and Headlocks. And I am telling you, this is old school, people, but at the Lauderdale County High School, the boys basketball team will get the money. Will get the money at 460 Church Street. That's their fundraiser. The bell time 7:30, June the 12th, Friday night, and there's another graphic of that as well, Michael, and it's one of the last graphics I did. This is more of the talent, and this is what Bo is doing. Wrestling, you grew up, we all grew up going to, where you could go to Jonesboro, Arkansas, just like you can go to Rogersville, Alabama, or Blytheville, Arkansas, or Rogersville, Alabama, or Paducah, Kentucky, or Rogersville, Alabama. So, folks, if you're in the North Alabama area, June the 12th on Friday night, then check out Southern State Wrestling Hoops and Headlocks. Tony, thank you so much for being with us today. Pat, you're the OG, and I appreciate that. And Tony had a comment.
I just want to show one thing, because you had us go, and that was Jerry Lawler's first 4 years in wrestling, that stuff we reviewed for today's show.
And I didn't even get there. Okay, we'll go overtime.
So I wanted to show this. Sean Delaney, who writes a lot of books about Evansville, Indiana wrestling, gave me this recently, but it's Jerry Lawler's first appearance in Paducah, Kentucky, November the 11th, 1970.
That's backwards, so
yeah.
So you're going to have to read us the card.
Yeah, it's Jerry Lawler and Buddy Hack. Buddy Hack was the local babyface they used in Paducah. It was really over. Versus the Scorpion, which was Don Duffy, and Eric Stanky, who became Siegfried Stanky later on. But it's November 11th, 1970, and this is Jerry's first appearance in Paducah. And I treasure that because I got that from Sean. So I just wanted to show that.
Thank you, Tom.
That's fantastic. Pat, were you able to listen to the Cornette podcast about the first 4 years of Jerry Lawler's career?
I did. I listened to that on the way here to Knoxville.
What do you think?
I thought it was very, very well done. And obviously Jim does you can say a lot of things about Cornette, and I'm not sure I'd want him to be my next door neighbor, but he is meticulous in his research, and really gives a lot of insight on kind of how, at some point they figured out, and I think a lot of it was Fargo and a lot of it was Jerry Jarrett, this guy's going to have something. And, it's really interesting for anybody, I think, to listen to, Jerry Lawler fan or not.
Great stuff. And Tony, thanks for bringing that up. I sent that out and I totally forgot about it. Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central, Randy Hales show, and you guys in the audience. It's all about you guys. If anybody wants to join me, any of you guys, you can. But, man, we're going to turn it into the audience. I appreciate the audience for being with us today. I also appreciate Pat and Michael and the great job they did. Tony, I like your research. I like your stuff. The Pro Wrestling Time, Tony Richards Pro Wrestling Time table, and you're going to be called on again, my friend.
All right. Well, I'd love to. I love this show, and I love all you guys, and I just feel like home here. So anytime you'd like me to come back, I'd be more than happy to.
Very good. Very good. I appreciate all of you. And to close us out, and his final take of the show. And, we started this conversation this morning when you called me back, and I told you my concerns a little bit, and you told me your concerns. I think we got back on the right track, and we had tremendous feedback. Final comment is out of here, Michael St. John.
Well, first of all, to the audience, I mean, we didn't have as many references tonight because we had a path that we were traveling, but thank you. Those were some fabulous comments, and thank you. A big kudo to Tony Richardson. It's really great over the past year getting to reinvigorate our friendship and to be a part of what you do. I'm going to throw one more kudo. Your Bradshaw and Briscoe series that you've done, and you did the series on the Welch family, one of the best that I've seen in years. And go back, folks, if you have in the archives and look it up on YouTube, you will love it. It's a I think, 10 episodes, I think.
We got, well, when George did it, he was our 11th episode for the Welch series.
It's incredible. Just an incredible. If you're into Tennessee wrestling and the history of it and the background of it, it's fabulous.
And 2 weeks, we got a new series starting. So,
on what? Can you tell?
The history of Texas wrestling.
All right.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Tony. Always a pleasure. And go Cats. As far as this show, I thank you, Randy, for the job you do. Thank you, Pat, for all the success that you have caused for this show and how you have put together a wonderful opportunity for all of us. And thank you so much for everything that you do. And for our listeners and our watchers.
Adam, don't forget Adam.
Adam's the man.
I was saving him for last, man.
Okay.
Come on. Good. And our executive producer, Adam Ward, who behind the scenes.
Adam Dunn.
Adam Ward used to work for me.
You're so excited you can't even talk.
Exactly. I'm sort of wound up. But Adam Dunn has done yeoman's work on all these shows. And again, it produces it to the Channel 5's producers used to be good. That's where he learned his craft. That's why the show's as good as it is. So, Adam, thank you for what you do. Randy, thank you. And thank you to our listeners. Hey, next Monday night, we'll have another great little comment, a section, and we'll have a format that you guys will like. Let's put it that way. So for everybody, I guess I'm doing okay. For Tony Richardson, Pat Trammell, for our host, general manager, and all-around good guy, greatest wrestling promoter alive today, Randy Hales. I'm Michael St. John. So long, everybody.